Yeah, Marlon, and think about the point that that AP brought up about. So he mentioned Ali Dawa saying on YouTube that as soon as we get the political power, we're going to execute you. And yeah, expanded on it later. Says he's going to be watching, sitting there eating popcorn, watching the apostate prophet be executed, and ex-Muslims in general, and people like me who've criticized Islam. We're all going to be executed. They talk about this. And yet, when we say, oh, okay, we don't want to be executed, so if this is what your ideology tells you to do, we're going to respond to your ideology. We're going to respond to your ideology. And they say, oh, look at these Islamophobes, look at these bigots. And it's amazing because if you go back 15 years, we're sitting there saying, hey, wait a minute, Islam teaches that apostates need to be killed and people need to be executed for blasphemy and so on. So you should be careful about you need to confront this ideology. We're blasted as being Islamophobes and bigots. And when we say why, and they go, because Islam doesn't teach that. So back then, if you go back 15 years, everyone was saying, no, Muhammad never did anything with a 9-year-old girl. That's a lie. Islam doesn't have a death penalty for apostasy. No, that's a lie. These are all lies. So you're Islamophobes. You guys have a mental disorder that you're accusing Islam of these things. Now, somehow it's changed to, of course, Muhammad was with a 9-year-old girl. Of course, we're going to kill apostates. Of course, we're going to kill blasphemers. But you're an Islamophobe if you don't want this. In other words, AP is a bigot and an Islamophobe because he doesn't want Islam to successfully take over and execute him. I'm an Islamophobe and a bigot because I don't want to be executed by this. I don't want this to be in control. I don't want child marriage to become a normal thing. And it's just amazing that everything I was saying that Islam taught 15 years ago, they now, and I was called a liar back then by Dawa guys. Now they shout it from the rooftops because they think they've reached a stage where they can be more honest about certain things. But they'll still pull the Islamophobia card. Hey, if you don't want to be publicly executed by us, if you don't want your head chopped off because of what we believe, you're evil. You're a bigot. This is why we have to subjugate you because you don't want to be beheaded. And it's just like it's this absolute complete insanity. But it's another example of, wait a minute, the Dawa guys 15 years ago said this was all lies. Now they say it's all true. What's going on here? Lying is just I did want to say one more thing. I've already said it, but on the issue of lying, because I do not want people to get the wrong idea that when they're talking to a Muslim who says something false, that this Muslim is lying. I specifically kept emphasizing the Dawa community when I said I've never seen liars like this, not even in prison. Your average Muslim, or there are Muslims who don't follow the Dawa guys, right? There are Muslims from different groups and so on. There are Muslims who are repulsed by those guys. So when you're talking to a Muslim, don't think, this guy's got to be lying. It's if you are talking to a Muslim who is a fan or an adherent of a certain group who happen to be like the most popular in the world right now, the Dawa guys. In other words, if you're talking to a Muslim, he's, Daniel Hakikachu says, or Ali Dawa says, or Sheikh Uthman says, or Muhammad Hijab says, that person's head is filled with a ton of lies. And therefore, you need to interact differently with that. Again, doesn't mean that person's lying. He may just believe the lies. But you need to understand. I'm just pointing out that there's differences. So don't assume that everyone's lying just because the Dawa guys are. Don't assume that everyone's deliberately being deceptive just because the Dawa guys are. But if you run into someone who is a fan of the Dawa guys, I would recommend anything they say if you're not familiar with it, and they say, but the Catholic Encyclopedia said, well, pause it.
Yeah.
Bring it up. Let's read it. Any source, anything they're saying about Muhammad, anything they're saying about Christianity. If they're saying something and you do not know, you cannot trust the Dawa guys. Everything they say, let's stop, pause right there. Let's look up the source because you guys have a history of lying constantly. So I can't trust you on anything.